Well, here we are once again. It's been quite the journey. Um, had an episode that got a strike, and so I have not been able to come back live on this channel. And but I'm back now, episode number 17, and I am going to have to be a little bit more cautious, unfortunately, and I do not like that. But that's okay, because if they strike this channel down, there is another one waiting in the wings. Kennedy and Trump is the new channel that I've just started that will just talk about what we're talking about here, Kennedy and Trump. And today, what I want to talk about, what I want to focus on, is one of the newest revelations that I have seen here. This is from Kennedy24.com. And guess what's happening? Kennedy sues Google for censoring political speech on YouTube. This was from August 4th, 2023, just a few days ago. So I'm going to go ahead and read just a little bit of this and see if I can even make this a little bit bigger for my old eyes here. Okay, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a candidate for the Democratic Party's presidential nomination, Wednesday filed a complaint. And this is awesome. I love when they do this. They put the complaint right there. So you can click on that complaint and read the full complaint. In the U.S. District Court, Northern District of California, against Google LLC. California knows how to party. And its wholly owned subsidiary YouTube LLC. So it's not just Google, it's YouTube. They're going after them. And this is awesome. We've been waiting for this, right? How long have we been waiting for somebody to finally go after these goons? To go after these guys who are censoring RFK for freedom of speech. They don't like what they call medical misinformation, whatever you want to call it, man. It's just really, really sad. So, unlike Trump, RFK is taking that stand here. Now, I don't really blame Trump. There's a few reasons why. I like that Trump is doing this over RFK. I think one of the main things is because RFK is a lawyer. He's an environmentalist lawyer, but he is a lawyer. He knows how to sue. He knows how to litigate. He is not running this litigation process. But Trump is also being hit with so many of these other cases, and he's got his legal teams and everything working on those cases. This is almost like Kennedy and Trump working together, because whatever happens with this case with Kennedy is not only going to affect Robert F. Kennedy Jr., it's going to affect a lot of social media, depending on the outcome. This could really help with the censorship issues that all of us on Facebook are having for what they call misinformation. Now, on my channel, and maybe I can pull that up here too, just to kind of show you, but what they call medical misinformation, that's what I've been dealing with these most recent strikes, and it's all related to Kennedy, and it's all just replaying, except for the episode number 14 of this show, Kennedy and Trump, which was taken down. Aside from that, everything else is just replays. It's all it is. It's just Kennedy talking, trying to answer the questions that are asked to him about medical information, relevant, valuable medical information. But I'll continue to read on here. Kennedy alleges that Google worked with the federal government to develop and enforce misinformation policies to censor the government's political opponents, including Kennedy. Including Kennedy, who is running against President Biden in the Democratic primary. Here we have more evidence of election interference. It's not just election interference against President Donald Trump. This is election interference against the person who is probably right now the biggest threat to Joe Biden staying in the White House, which I don't believe Joe Biden should even be there right now. And that man is RFK Jr. So I'm just going to read that. Such actions violate the First Amendment when, as here, they result from a public private partnership that relies on government sources. So this is more evidence. We talked about this before, and we see this with Facebook. This was happening with Twitter. This has been happening with Google, with YouTube, where the government is forcing them or putting pressure on Google and YouTube to censor their political opponents. Guess which two opponents are being censored on Google/YouTube? Kennedy and Trump. Two guys in two different parties, two different walks of life, both very successful people that find themselves in the same spot here, battling social media censorship. It's crazy. And they're both running for president. The similarities just keep growing. Okay, let's continue on. YouTube has become an important platform for political discourse in America. Now, what I'm reading here, if I didn't mention that, is all from Kennedy24.com. This is their press release talking about RFK Jr., who is suing Google/YouTube. YouTube has become an important platform for political discourse in America, a digital town square that voters trust as a place to get news and opinions about the issues of the day, a place where people can communicate about matters of public concern. Nonetheless, Google has censored countless Americans. I just want to highlight that. Google has censored countless Americans for views that run counter to the narratives of the US government and for just replaying those um, views that run counter to the narratives of the US government. Kennedy is just the most high profile victim of this censorship campaign. Here we have again Kennedy, a man of the people, doing something for the people, doing something that is different, that is going to make an impact here. Kennedy is good at this. This degree of censorship of a major presidential candidate is unprecedented in American history. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, yeah, I guess if you exclude President Trump, maybe, but if you if you include President Trump, not so much. All right, so this suit alleges that Google engaged in the censorship under the direction of federal officials in an environment of political coercion. They're coercing them. They're in cahoots. They are colluding. The Biden administration is colluding with the social media companies, not just YouTube and Google, but this is what this suit is. This is going to set a precedent. This is going to open up doors. This is going to let people know, okay, look, if Kennedy can win this, this could be a game changer. And for me, it's nothing more than just this is why I joined YouTube, was for the freedom of speech, so I could say what I want, pull up a camera and talk about things. If I knew YouTube was going to be like this, I would have never joined. Would have never joined it. I would have just I don't know what I would have done. Let's read on. The government cannot censor its critics, said Scott Street of J.W. Howard Attorneys, the attorney who is leading the litigation. It cannot do so directly, and it cannot do so by empowering private entities like Google to act as the censor. That principle is fundamental to American democracy, especially when it involves political speech. That is what this case is about. It's about preserving voters' freedoms to speak, to hear, to think for themselves. Great, great articulate view from Scott Street of J.W. Howard Attorneys. This is the guy who is going to be leading the litigation process. Curious to see how all of this plays out, and I'm sure you are too. So now you have Biden, the Biden administration, indirectly in the hot seat. But not only that, you have one of the biggest social media companies, social media platforms, and one of the biggest internet platforms out there, Google and YouTube, in the hot seat. The tides have turned. The tables have finally turned on these guys who just think that they can do whatever they want, censor whatever they want, work with whoever they want. But when it comes to working with the government, not so much. You can't do these things that they are doing. So we'll see what the judge says. And that is mentioned here too. Kennedy has spoken at length about the subjects like toxic chemicals, COVID origins, and safety concerns about COVID-19 shots and other vaccines. Google has justified removing videos that discuss such topics from YouTube by claiming they contain quote unquote medical misinformation. That's exactly what I have been censored for right here: medical misinformation. That is exactly the issue that I have been dealing with, that I'm being censored for. And it's not just me, I'm not just complaining here, but this has been happening for a long time. But it's like, I can't even replay any of Kennedy's stuff unless I'm going to take out anything he says about COVID. Like, people are asking him these questions, and then the answers they don't like. So it gets treated as medical misinformation. Let's stop asking him the questions. It's crazy. Hey, Rick, how are you, my friend? Nice to see you here. Yeah, and I will open up the this the stream is always open if anybody does want to come in. I know it's probably late for you, my friend. And this is just going to be a short video here, but I'm so happy that RFK Jr. is taking that next step to actually sue, to do something about this. Again, I'm a big Trump guy. I'm a big Trump supporter, but he's not doing this. He's not suing. He's not going after these companies, and he could. He could. I know he's tied up in other litigation processes and everything, but he just posted the other day. President Trump just posted the other day, "You come after me, and I'm coming after you." Well, then you got to go after these people. You got to go after these companies the way that RFK is doing, the same way that Kennedy is doing. Because if Kennedy hits these guys from one end, and if Trump hits them from the other end, it's going to change the whole game, right? And it may help some of us get our original channels back, or it may at least prevent the same thing that happened to some of us that have lost our channels. It may help prevent that from happening to other people in the future. And then maybe we can have a real good discussion about these topics that are being treated as quote unquote medical misinformation. Let's read on. However, much of the material contained in the videos it removed during the 2024 presidential campaign had nothing to do with public health issues. There you go. Nothing to do with public health issues. In one instance, Google removed a video of a speech given by Kennedy at the New Hampshire Institute of Politics at St. Anselm College in New Hampshire, the state that hosts America's first primary. Isn't that interesting? His speech, which was viewed as a political speech and attended by several prominent New Hampshire Democrats, including the chairman of New Hampshire's Democratic Party, centered on Kennedy's concern about the corrupt merger of corporate and state power, which is exactly what is happening. I mean, it's been happening, but here we have some clear proof, some proof that can be litigated on. And we have somebody who is actually willing to stand up and try to do something about it. This is an issue that Kennedy has fought back about for decades. This is an issue that Kennedy has fought about for decades. These actions run counter to a long-held American belief in free speech. The U.S. Supreme Court has held that, quote, the right to think is the beginning of freedom, end quote, and that, quote, speech must be protected from the government because speech is the beginning of thought, end quote. Kennedy is seeking an injunction to prohibit Google from relying on its misinformation policies to censor him during his presidential campaign. The case is assigned to Judge Nathaniel Cousins. So there it is. That's the whole thing there. If you want to read the full complaint, it is here. I will be uploading it, backing it up, because this is some very important information. This is 27 pages here, Okay. And these are some of the things that RFK Jr. is saying. This complaint, number one, this complaint concerns the freedom of speech and the extraordinary steps the United States government has taken under the leadership of Joe Biden to silence people it does not want Americans to hear. Number two, Mr. Kennedy is not the only victim of the censorship campaign, which is unprecedented in American history, but he is a high profile victim, especially since he is now challenging President Biden for the Democratic Party's presidential nomination. Number three, Mr. Kennedy often speaks at length about topics people would like to ignore, including the negative health effects of toxic chemicals and potential safety concerns about the COVID-19 shots, as well as other vaccines that have been developed since Congress gave the pharmaceutical industry immunity from product liability claims. That's a big issue right there. If they believe in their product, why would they need Congress to give them pharmaceutical industry immunity from product liability claims? Number four, YouTube often removes videos of Mr. Kennedy's comments from his public platforms. It usually relies on its quote unquote medical misinformation policies to justify the actions. It has relied on the policies several times to censor interviews and speeches given by Mr. Kennedy during the 2024 presidential campaign, including a speech he gave at Anselm College in New Hampshire, the state that hosts America's first primary. And Kennedy is probably going to win that primary just maybe by default because it doesn't look like Joe Biden is even going to show up for that. That's what it looks like here. On information and belief, it did so based on statements from Biden administration about what information to censor. So here we have YouTube, Facebook, Google. They're taking orders from the Biden administration about what to censor. They're not just coming up on their own. They're not just doing this on their own. They are the Biden administration has a big influence on these guys. And why? And why? It should just be about the truth. This goes on to say it will continue to do so throughout the presidential campaign. That's true, especially as the primary election gets closer. This is why they really want to silence Kennedy. I'll just read one more here. Number five, the actions are unlawful. The U.S. Supreme Court has said that the right to think is the beginning of freedom and that speech must be protected from the government because speech is the beginning of thought. These principles apply both when the government directly regulates speech here and when, as here, it works behind the scenes to censor its critics through otherwise private actors. Plaintiffs bring this action to protect those principles and to preserve their ability to communicate with Americans on matters of public concern. And this is why it's like, okay, I felt safe just making sure that what I was saying here is just Robert F. Kennedy just replaying what he's saying here. It's not like I feel like they're censoring me. They're not going after me. They're going after him. And there's a big reason why they're going after him. RFK Jr. is the biggest threat to the Biden administration, bigger than President Trump. Because if the Biden administration can't get past Robert F. Kennedy Jr., it doesn't matter what they do to President Trump. It really will not matter in the end. And I don't believe that anything is going to happen to President Trump. I don't believe he's going to jail or anything like that. And even if something like that did happen, he could still win. He could still win in jail, pardon himself. Kennedy could win, pardon President Trump. I mean, there's so many different things that could happen. Now, number six, Mr. Kennedy resides in New York. Now, this is the thing because I thought that he lives in California. So number six is a little confusing. Number eight, defendant Google LLC is a limited liability company formed under Delaware law that has its corporate headquarters in Mountain View, California. Defendant YouTube LLC is a limited liability company formed under Delaware law that has its corporate headquarters in San Bruno, California. Number 9, YouTube LLC is a wholly owned subsidiary of Google LLC, which Google acquired in 2006. So I won't read the whole thing, but if you do want to read that, this is a great 27 pages. You can download it free from Kennedy24.com. I will have it on my website, whatistruth911.wordpress.com, and I look forward to that. I just wanted to briefly cover that because I'm so happy that Kennedy is doing something. Somebody is finally standing up with the knowledge, with the power, with the funds to stand up to Google, to YouTube, and say, we're not going to take it anymore. It's great. If I could remember the guy's name from Twisted Sister, I believe that's the group I'm sure it'll come back to me at some point. Hey Rick, how is the book coming? The book is coming very, very well. I am so excited about this book. And I think this is going to be very similar to the David Crowley book, where a lot of what I'm writing will end up getting cut, and that's fine, to make a cohesive, flowing story. And there's going to be quotes from a lot of people, a lot of things that we're hearing about that are very, very powerful quotes. There's a lot of things, just new names come up, old names come up. Joe Rogan kind of has a big role in this book because he's been very vocal about all of this stuff. There's some good Ice Cube clips even here. I mean, there's just so many good clips from so many different people, and it's going to be hard to leave some of this on the cutting room floor. And I've been trying to watch and listen to everything that RFK Jr. is doing and saying, and everything that President Trump is doing and saying. That includes all of their speeches. And some of them you kind of like, okay, well, this is a great quote. Sometimes you have a great quote from 4 different speeches, and you want to figure out what is the best one from which of those speeches, because they're talking about the same thing. So, but the different sections that I'm going to have in this book, just separate things. One area about the border wall. What are Kennedy's views? What are Donald Trump's views on the border? On Biden, on the wars that we're going through. So all of these different topics. So what I'm doing right now is just taking all of this information, trying to write everything, and then I'm going to do a lot of copy paste this into this chapter, into that chapter. And as I'm doing that, I am trying to kind of write it in a cohesive way, but not as much as I will do in the second and third draft. So on paper, I probably got about 40 pages that I have typed up. That is nowhere near anything complete, not even cohesive too much, but working on my second notebook here too, of just covering all of these different things and trying to follow all of these speeches, make sure that I don't miss anything. And there's just so much. There's going to be a lot that is not, will probably not make it into this book. But to answer the question in about 3 seconds, the book is going great. I'm really happy with the way that everything is turning out so far. And there's the biggest problem is that there's just going to be too much information to put into one book. Maybe I'll keep, um, I'll keep a lot more. And I know I had talked to you too about even combining some of the stuff that I have for my other 2 books, for the voter fraud book and the COVID book. And I probably will end up doing that. Probably will end up using a lot of the content from my COVID book will probably end up getting transferred over to here, because there's so much information on the COVID stuff that I just did not know, right? When I first started writing this, I had no idea that back in 2016 or 2017, President Donald Trump hired RFK Jr. To look at the safety, the vaccine safety for children, right? And all that went sour once Trump got these 2 guys in, these 2 guys from Pfizer. Trump put those guys in and they killed RFK's program. They just killed everything that he was doing. And instead of going with RFK, they ran with Fauci, right? One of the biggest blunders, I think, if not the biggest blunder that Trump made in these 4 years. I don't believe he's made a lot of blunders. And that is a huge, big blunder that he has since, talked about briefly and, you know, corrected or danced around, et cetera, et cetera. But if you get on a stage, on a debate stage, President Trump and RFK Jr. talking about the COVID, what happened with the lockdowns, what happened with Fauci, yeah, you're going to get some really good stuff that you would not normally get. Not the propaganda that we hear about Trump. Oh, he's this, he's that. He likes to grab people here, or he's racist, or whatever. But you're going to get some of the real things, and there are real things. If you want to criticize Trump you're going to get some of that, and that's what RFK brings to the table, which is what I like. It's not just going after people. So far, everything, and this is one thing that I've been looking for in all of Trump's speeches, and I even wrote this note down here. It's like, I feel like President Trump needs to address RFK Jr. and why is he not? Why is he not doing that? And come up with a few things, but one thing definitely would be, well, is that what does Trump gain from talking about RFK Jr. right now? And does that hurt RFK Jr.'s chances too? With the Democrats who are thinking, should I vote for Biden? Should I vote for RFK? Well, if Trump comes out in support of RFK, is that going to push those Democratic voters closer to Joe Biden? So Trump is actually kind of, in one sense, you could say Trump could actually be helping RFK Jr. by not talking about him, and just by letting people like us kind of look at this and say, oh, look, Trump says this about the wall, and RFK Jr. is saying the same thing. Trump says this about masks, RFK Jr. is saying the same thing. I mean, you go on and on about these policies and about what the Supreme Court says, and a lot of the things that the Supreme Court ruled in Trump's favor with, RFK Jr., even if he didn't agree with it, is saying, look, the Supreme Court has ruled, that's it, done. Let's just move on to other topics. So that is another thing that I really like, because I know RFK Jr. He's a climate change guy. He believes, that there is global warming, climate change. He believes in that stuff, and he does believe in gun control too. But he was asked about guns and everything. It's like, you can't do anything. You're not going to take away people's guns. The Supreme Court has ruled. That's it. It's done. Let's move on to some other thing. So for RFK, he's not going to sit there and cry about it. He's not going to whine, but he's also going to give you both sides too. He will say, look, the gun violence is a problem. There is a problem in this country with gun violence, but why aren't we also looking at what is causing this? And why aren't we looking at, is any of this tied to pharmaceutical drugs, to things like that? And that is what Trump has been talking about. That's what other people have been talking about. Like, it's not just people, oh, I got a gun, okay, let me go and I'm gonna go kill people. A lot of these people are on some type of drug. They're on a pharmaceutical, sometimes even a legal drug. So, and then the whole border wall, if you have not seen RFK Jr.'s short documentary, it's like a 12-minute film. It's an awesome documentary that really breaks down what is happening at our southern border in a very quick, easy way, from a very articulate, intelligent person named Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who may be our next president of the United States. That may happen. But what I want to see, my goal, and what I really want to see happen, is I want to see Robert F. Kennedy Jr. versus President Donald Trump for the 2024 presidential election. That's what I want to see. Right? Do not want to see Biden in there. I believe many of the Democrats don't want to see Biden in there. Even the ones who are not necessarily Kennedy Democrats, whatever that is. I may be a Kennedy Democrat, really, when I look at some of my views too. I don't know, but it's going to be a very interesting months here coming up, leading up to, I believe, the first primary is in March 2024. Could be May, but that's when things are really going to heat up. So these lawsuits, these attacks against President Trump, and what RFK Jr. is going after them. So while President Trump is on the defensive, they're coming after him with all these different things. RFK Jr. is taking it to these same people. He's taking it to these guys and putting them on the defensive. The Biden administration's trying to put Trump on the defensive with all of these different indictments and these weird things that are happening that are not going to do anything. They're not going to go anywhere. It's just they're just trying to rally their own base. And at the same time, here comes RFK Jr. going after those guys. And that same base that Biden is trying to rally is going to look at what RFK Jr. is doing. Now, the scary thing about what's happening with RFK Jr. is that he's not getting, at this point, he's not getting Secret Service protection yet. He should. Hopefully, at some point, he will, because he's polling at about 20%, if not more, in some of these polls. We'll see how all of that. We'll see how all that goes. Rick says Trump is just waiting for the right moment. I'm sure Trump's advisors are telling him to bide his time with RFK. Yeah, I sure hope so. I mean, I expected more from the media to really ask President Trump about RFK. I can only find one clip, one person. Maybe there are more, but I can only find one who actually asked President Trump about RFK, and Trump had nothing but good things to say about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The other thing before I go here that I wanted to briefly cover was the should Biden debate the other Democratic presidential nominees, and should President Trump debate the Republican presidential candidates, not nominees, sorry, the candidates, the people that are running. So in both parties, it looks like Trump does not want to debate the other Republican candidates. I think that's a big. Yeah, I think he should. I think he should. He needs to show up. He needs to get this done, right? Go to these debates, because you will end it. It will be game over. If he doesn't, he's just letting it work. He's letting them flow. And he said this, let them debate so I can see who my vice president is going to be. Okay, I can understand that. It takes away a big weapon from him. And maybe he doesn't even care about this. Because on the other side, what's happening right now is Joe Biden is saying he is not going to debate any of the Democratic presidential candidates, because he doesn't want to debate RFK Jr., right? So that's going to be one thing Trump can't criticize Biden for, because he's going to do the same thing, I don't know. It's going to hurt the Republican Party. It's going to hurt Ron DeSantis even more, if that's even possible. And if Mike Pence is still in the race by March, by May, whenever these presidential debates start, if Mike Pence is still in that race, there's going to be fireworks between President Trump and Pence. And it's really going to be President Trump just tearing up Mike Pence for the things that Mike Pence has been saying, for the lies that he's been saying, for the January 6th stuff that he's been talking about. And we're going to get Trump's side. I mean, that would be a very fiery, heated thing. And for Ron DeSantis, it's going to go back to the lockdowns, where you're going to have Trump saying, Ron locked down Florida. You're going to have Ron DeSantis saying they were the ones who kept everything open. So there's going to be some good back and forth there. And they go, well, this is going to hurt the party, blah, blah, blah. It's not about the party. I mean, this all shows President Trump and Robert F. Kennedy, they're not about their parties. If they were, they would not be doing half of the things that they are doing and have been doing. to shoot themselves in the foot with their own party. They have no issues talking out against their own parties, and we see that time and time over. And that's good. That's what you need. That's going to strengthen the real people in your party. That's why you've had this split for the last 6 years in the Republican Party because of President Trump, who has split this party for the good, for better. You keep what is good and you get rid of the other stuff. And even in Trump's speech that just happened right before I started this show, he's again talking about how the House is doing a good job with these investigations, but the Senate, Mitch McConnell, the Republican, is doing a horrible job. And Trump even speculates the Democrats must be blackmailing him. They must have something on Mitch McConnell. They must have something on him because his actions are just very, very strange in his view. So we'll see how all of this works out. Some of the things that I have been writing, does go back to, will Trump actually debate? Because at the GOP dinner that he did on August 4th, Trump brought up the question, should he debate? And in his last rally, he also brought that up. He asked the people, should I debate? He took a poll of just the people in the crowd. It seems split. People are like, yes, you should debate, and other people are like, no. So we'll see how all of that goes, but at least he's asking that question. And from my view, yes, you need to debate your Republican rivals. You need to get out there, stay out there. It's only going to help President Trump. It is a win-win. I don't see how he can lose by showing up and debating these people, even if they're polling at 16, 17%, and Trump is polling at like 50 or 60. Biden could say the same thing here too. The country needs the best candidate and the best person for this job. And if Trump wants to do that, if he wants to prove that, he's going to have a global stage where he is going to be up there. Yeah, it's going to be just like how it was in 2016. It's going to be Trump versus everybody else. But he's going to have at least a few good people running against him this time, not like 2016 where you had Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush, I mean, come on. Marco Rubio and I can't even think of some of the other clowns that were running against Trump, but he destroyed them in 2016. Because of COVID, there were no presidential debates on either side for the parties, for the primaries and everything. It just ended up just being Trump versus Biden. But you need that. Both of the parties need that, unless you're scared. And I don't believe Trump is scared of any. I don't believe he thinks any of these other people are a threat. It's just kind of like, Trump is walking in there at a different level and saying, why am I even here with these guys? Well, you're there to let them know who the best candidate is and why. Because it's not about the people you're running against. It's about the public that is paying attention to who is running, what they are saying, what they are doing, what they have done, and how do they deal with their political opponents, rivals, adversaries, and even some people that they may like. And one of the people who is in the Republican primary debates will probably end up being Donald Trump's vice president. I guess maybe, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. So we'll see. But I also wrote here, let's see. I strongly disagree with that move. Trump not doing a debate. I think this is a bad move for Trump. He won't be able to criticize Biden. I don't think it will hurt Trump as much as it will hurt RFK. And that's the other thing. Trump needs to debate because this is going to help RFK. That's what I think too. This is going to, help RFK's chances. RFK can say, well, look, Trump is polling at 70%, right? He's definitely the front runner, and he's not scared to debate the other Republicans. Why is Joe Biden scared to debate me? That's RFK. That's what RFK could say. But if Trump doesn't debate the other Republican candidates, that's not going to happen. So we'll see what happens. But I said, then again, if Trump comes out and endorses RFK, um, that could also hurt RFK's run against Biden. And I just talked about that. So, what does Trump have to gain by complimenting or even recognizing RFK Jr.? Perhaps this is the art of the deal and a genius political strategy. So we'll see. President Trump's speech today also talked about the censorship and the election interference. He brought up a lot of things that he did, comparing it to Biden, the interest rates. He brought up tariffs, how he put these tariffs on China, on Russia, on Saudi Arabia, on all of these places. And, as soon as Biden gets in there, all that is gone, all taken away. Excuse me. Let me see. Rick here says the government as it is now is rotten to the core. It doesn't matter who wins. You're just trading one corruption for another, in my opinion. And I see that opinion. I understand that. The race cars out here, I understand that as much, but I definitely see that, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's what they want, is they want us to feel like that, so then we don't vote, we don't pay attention, and they can just do whatever they want, continue to do whatever they want. So I think that's part of their plan, and we'll see how that works out for them, how it works out for us. Because if we don't get it involved, right, if we don't take that one day to go out there and vote, um, it's like, well, whether we vote or not, um, what is going to happen? What are the benefits of voting? What are the benefits of not voting? Is there a benefit to just not voting? And I think that's a question we all have to ask ourselves. Is there a benefit to not get involved in this, knowing the power that we're giving them by just not doing anything, right? If we see evil, do we just turn away from it, or do we look at, okay, maybe I can't do everything, I can't solve the whole thing, but is there anything that I can do? And I always think voting is one thing that you can do. Speaking out against these corrupted governments, how do we know that they're rotten to the core if we're not looking at what they're doing? How do we know? How can we say that all of them are just bad? I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but how do we know who is good and who is bad if we're not paying attention to who is good and who is bad? If we don't understand the process and how these things work, it's very easy to just say they're all bad and that's it. We're just trading one evil for the other. And only time will tell whether we are or whether we aren't. But I believe that there are good people out there, good people in politics, in every aspect of life. And so, we gotta find them. If you don't believe that there are, then I understand. You should never vote for the lesser of two evils. I never will agree with that. It's better to not vote. It's better to take your vote to the voting booth and leave it blank, just so that they have, oh yeah, this person, somebody voted. They didn't vote for anybody, but they cast their ballot. They took the ballot, they cast it. They didn't vote for anybody because they don't like any of you. They think you're all full of crap. So maybe that's the road to go. I don't know, but it's up to everybody to kind of figure that out. But in my experience, in my research, in what I've looked at, what I've read, what I've been, studying and just kind of going over this stuff, there was a difference. It did seem like with Trump, there was a shift, and not just what he said, because it was all about what he did and the accomplishments. And a lot of people always say, "What accomplishments?" There's a 80-page book that goes through all of his accomplishments. It's a quick, nice, easy read. I believe there is a PDF version too, but it really breaks it down. And I think one of the biggest problems is that the media has us so just we're just there's not enough hours in the day to keep up with all of these topics or who is doing what, the propaganda, et cetera, et cetera. But I do believe when you look at Trump and you look at Kennedy and you see why are they going after them, right? If they're all just they're all just like eating each other here. It just everybody's bad, and where are the good people? So that's why when people like that, when I see them, I pay more attention to them. I pay more attention to President Trump because I see what he says. I see what he does. What did he get done in those 4 years? And he doesn't get a lot of credit for the many things that he got done in those brief 4 years and what he could have done. And we also see that once he was out of office, why did they have to undo everything? Why do they want to undo everything? Did it make the country better with taking away everything that Trump had going on, or did it make things worse? And you can clearly see that it made things a lot worse. For years, they were saying, well, this is just how it is, right? Trump comes in, he changes the whole game, he fixes things pretty pretty quickly here. Threatens other countries with tariffs and things like that, and gets them to pretty much bow down to the USA, and that countries did not like that. A lot of people in this country who were bought and paid for did not like that because they had a good thing going on. They had a good thing going on for probably a long time, and that's just how things are. And it's like, well, that's how they are, that's how they always will be. So should we do nothing, or is that more reason? If these governments are rotten now, if they're rotten more, isn't that more reason for us to get involved, get some good people involved in this? And we can make a difference, we can make a change, we can do something. But I never believe that, just turning away from it. If we do that, we can't expect things to ever get better. It is going to get worse. So that is up to us, and each person is different. And that's one of the challenges with this book. And I think that's one of the things that's going to shy a lot of people away from this book who will never read it. They're like, and I've already gotten criticism. Kennedy, you can't say Kennedy and Trump in the same sentence. And it's like, well, that's what I see. I'm just being honest, and I think there is a really good story, a historical story. This is going to be a very powerful, pivotal moment in our history. I think we're going to look back at this at this next year, and we're going to look back at this later on and say, wow, this was such a crazy time, and such an interesting time, not only in politics, not only in the USA, but how does this affect the whole world? What happened? What did we do? And what type of change did we make for the better, for the good? All right. So God bless you all. Thank you for joining me here for just this quick, brief show. I didn't really cover too much about Trump, but definitely will next time. Just wanted to break in just because I'm just so happy that RFK Jr. has taken this step here. Another big, powerful step, suing a big company like Google and YouTube for exactly what they've been doing to a lot of us, censorship. God bless you all. And until next time, stay safe, be good, love thy neighbor.